All right, I'm Scott Allen Miller. This is Sheep Guarding Llama, and this is the final part of the 17th of May, 2021. You might be able to see, we're going to see if we can get a view here. There we go. Oh, it goes away. It sees my face. So as you can see, we have arrived in Las Piñatas. So when we left off, we were on the plane. We took the private flight out of Miami. We flew great flight. It was amazing. There's a reason that people fly chartered private planes. It was fantastic, so comfortable and so fast. We had the whole cabin to ourselves. They had all kinds of snacks and treats and drinks, and anything we wanted was there on the plane, and we could just help ourselves because there's only us, right? There's only 4 seats because our luggage took up everything else. If you watch the videos of the plane, that was all of our luggage taking up every available space. It was intense from a luggage perspective, but it was so comfy, and Mia did really well. She laid on the floor most of the time. It was kind of chill because it wasn't a car, and so she didn't really have a panic attack because she was like just hanging out with us like on couches. So she was like, whatever. Clive was doing fine until we took off, and then he climbed on Liesel and looked out the window, and then he had a panic attack because we were so high up, and then he was just shaking the rest of the time. So Clive, actually, who we thought was going to be fine, actually had the really tough flight, and just a poor dog, but he did okay. He buried his nose in Liesel's arm and just hid there for the rest of the flight. Everything went well. We had some clouds, but we were able to see the Florida Keys really clearly. We saw just a touch of Cuba, nothing like Paul and I saw last time. We saw a lot of the Honduran jungle. We saw a lot of the Nicaraguan jungle. We flew over Jinotega, Matagalpa. We were able to see a lot of Lago Managua, that kind of stuff. Landing, really high winds. It was a rough landing in a small plane. Our pilot was great. The actual landing was smooth, but coming in was just like we're getting blown all over the place. And even when we got out of the plane, like it ripped my shirt almost over my head. It was so windy. Then began our adventures. Once we were off, going through immigrations was not too bad. Took probably 30 minutes, but customs was a nightmare. The dogs went through fine, so that was the most important thing. But they pulled our bags and we spent hours at the airport as they went through every single bag, pulled everything out, made a huge pile of stuff, and then kept an entire suitcase worth size. And they actually took this suitcase, and they told us, so like, pick a suitcase. So we picked this one, and they filled it with stuff that they were keeping. And so monitors, switches, router, access point, all kinds of cables, keyboards, mice, random crap. They just started piling that stuff in there and are like, okay, so this stuff we have to talk about. We're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. What's weird is they would pull out like a desktop, and I'd be like, that's my desktop. And they'd be like, okay, just give it back. I'm like, okay. But the one really big thing that they kept was the kids' video gaming computer. So that was a big deal that we're like, everything else we would just let go. Oh, some old monitors, some old networking gear. It's not worth very much. Some of it was worth like nothing. So that was a little bit upsetting that they took that stuff and then took the kids' video gaming computer. That's obviously a personal device for the kids to play video games on. And and then we're like, okay, do we have to pay? Where do we go? They're like, oh, no, you come back tomorrow afternoon and you have to talk to customs tomorrow. We're like, are you serious? Customs here in Managua and not even at the airport. So we tried to figure out what to do and decided that the best thing was, because I had nowhere to stay and we had to get people back to the hotel. Now, I do want to mention I had wanted to spend the first day or two in Managua so that we could deal with anything we needed to deal with there instead of running immediately way out to Las Piñatas, which originally we were coming in the morning and it wasn't quite such a big deal. Now that we came in so late, it really would have been quite important. And would have been a bigger deal. So because we had the ride already lined up, Melvin was waiting for us outside, and the whole time that we're dealing with this customs, the hours that we're there, Melvin and the driver, Pablo, are outside waiting for us. But they're not allowed in, they're not even allowed to talk to anybody. So they're not able to help us other than texting us a little bit. And it was really rough and really stressful. And we're just like, oh my gosh, it's already been such a long day. And this is so much going on. So that was rough. We finally got out. We had a few things we had to do. The kids were dying. I mean, they did really well this whole time. They had to watch the dogs because I had to deal with customs. Dominic had to run all over dealing with things. We're panicking because we don't know what's happening. The girls had to take care of the dogs. The girls did not have enough to drink. They didn't get to go to the bathroom. They didn't have food. They were sugar crashing. It was terrible for them. As soon as we were done there, we loaded up the van, and Melvin and Pablo took us over to Casa del Cafe because I said, Luciana just needs a smoothie. That's what she wants. So we went there, we got smoothies, and that Luciana was really good after that. She went from really, even once she knew she was getting a smoothie and she was just in the van, able to sit, didn't have to hold a dog, and was like, okay, we're done at the airport. She immediately was like, oh, okay, cool. And so we got smoothies, and that was a bit of an undertaking because we had to go back and order 3 times. A couple times they forgot to give us stuff, and then people didn't like what they got, and we just did that a bit. And I had to hit an ATM because we didn't have enough money for anything. So we went and got a bunch of money. And then Melvin got picked up by Tiani, his wife, and they went back home because we don't need him to spend the entire evening driving all around. And we got on the road. We found out right as we got on the road, right as we were leaving Casa del Cafe, Pablo's brother in Costa Rica died right then. We're guessing COVID, but we have no idea. And so so we went to a gas station and he broke down and we grabbed a few things. So that was kind of a dramatic start to, and we felt terrible. Like we didn't want to have to make him drive, but there was nothing else to do, right? We were really trapped at that point. And I'm sure he felt the same way. So we drove about 3 hours, it's a little bit less, out through Leon to Las Piñitas. And of course, it was all in the dark. Originally, this was supposed to be a daytime drive, and it was going to be like this beautiful showing everyone the country, whole areas that no one, except for me, has seen before, and they didn't get to see any of it. It was all in the dark, so that really sucked. The girls slept, though, so that was good. They just fell asleep in the car. Got out to Las Piñitas. Everything was closed, so like our hotel was all buttoned up. There was nothing to go see or do. All the lights are off. Everything was done in town. It was so late that we were getting back. So we went to the house that we currently have rented. Everybody say hi to Liesl as she disappears. And Paul was waiting for us there. We pulled in. We unloaded all the stuff. And immediately we discovered there's no way we were going to be able to stay at this house. Like, you know, the room that Paul has is outside and has windows on multiple sides. So he's very much an outdoor room with a lot of breeze. The rooms that we had for us are interior rooms with no cross windows, just windows into a hallway. So there's no air whatsoever. And in case you haven't followed along, we're in Nicaragua. It is hot here, typically about 95 every day, or at least in the 90s every day, right? It's really rare for it to drop below the 90s. So being in rooms above 90 degrees with no airflow is not an option. And we were able to come up with a fan, but it was a completely old, broken down fan and it was not nearly enough. Like it was not going to do anything. That was bad enough. Then in discovering that, we then, sorry, I'm wandering around here. We then discovered that the place is just full of insects, which is not surprising because there's no air conditioning. It's pretty much open to the elements. I mean, there's not even a screen, right? Like, so whole parts of the house are just open. So there were cockroaches in the rooms. There were lots of ants that were really driving Liesl crazy. Just lots of things everywhere. Even a crab in the hinge of the main door. So as you move the door, there's a crab right there going like, what are you doing? So that was, Liesl immediately started having a breakdown that she couldn't go in the hallway. She couldn't get to the bathroom. She couldn't use the bathroom because the bathroom was full of bugs and everything was dark, so dark. It felt like a overheated dungeon full of insects. And, you know, if you're used to it, if you're adapted to the heat, if you're prepared for all that, if you weren't exhausted, if you'd have been there during the daylight, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad. But the situation of us being so exhausted and it being everything we couldn't handle, and it's our first night in the country. I wanted to be in Managua with air conditioning so that we could have some acclimation, but we went straight to basically camping outdoors, except a tent you'd have a little bit more seal to keep the insects out. So this was really, really dramatic. It was so hot. We're just drenched in sweat. It doesn't seem like there's any way we're going to be able to cool down. We're not going to probably be able to shower. No one wants to use the bathroom there. It was a disaster. So Paul's like, well, I guess we can use the hotel. Luckily, there's no one there. So, or almost no one there. There were guests, but lots of rooms open. We walked down, had security open up the hotel, because that's at night. We don't have a concierge, just a security guard. And they let us in, and we looked at the rooms, and we found a room that would work. And I brought the girls over and got them situated so they could sleep here at the hotel, where there's still no air conditioning, although we do have that coming this week. It's just not here yet. We're able to have a cross breeze because there's windows on both sides. We have multiple fans. We grabbed a fan from the hotel, and then Chris, who works here, gave us his fan for the night because he's a little bit more used to the heat, and he knows that the girls will not be able to sleep. So he brought up his own personal fan, and we blew them directly on the girls, and they were able to cool down and sleep here. And there's mosquito netting, so it really worked out okay that, they were able to not have insects all over them, even though there's insects in the room. Because like the windows, I'll show you, they just open. There's no screen. It just opens. And because it's next to the water, the house is not on the water. It's right across the street, but it takes down the breeze quite a bit because there's all the houses in the way. Here at the hotel, we're directly on the water, and so there's it's a cooler breeze, and there's more of it, a lot more of it. It made all the difference. So we were so exhausted and so hot and so stressed after everything that happened at the airport, and then having to just do a long drive. Sorry about that. It was a really rough night, and we had to go to bed knowing that I had to be up in the morning to run to Managua so that we could deal with everything tomorrow. So before going to bed tonight, we set up a driver to pick me up tomorrow morning at 11. That'll be tomorrow the 18th, on Tuesday, and he will drive me out to Managua. Melvin will meet me there. Melvin lives in Managua, so it's not a big deal. It's probably 20 minutes from his house, and I'll be in Managua dealing with customs all day tomorrow. That is going to be an adventure because it's just me on my own dealing with customs in Nicaragua. Wow. So that's just the wrap up. That's just the last third of the day today. Just those things. And I can't even guess at what all I'm missing in there, right? Like, so much happened, so exhausting, but at least we're here. We are here, and we have the dogs. That was the biggest thing that we were concerned about. We are past that. Most of our stuff made it through security. We have our laptops. We have our Oculus VR. We have my desktop there made it. All of the camera gear made it. The GoPro made it. We have no idea why they kept the things that they did and let so much stuff go. But we're very thankful that the most critical stuff, if we lost everything that they took, it will suck, but it will not be absolutely tragic. And we had planned on that, right? We had very carefully, strategically put things so that if they took things, it would only be so bad. You overhear the noise in the background. They're working on my office. Air conditioner's been installed, but they have to do some work to make it all sealed up so you can actually use the air conditioning. And that's happening right now. So I'm really looking forward to getting into my air conditioned office sometime soon. I will see all of you tomorrow.